Yes, just about to get started. Up on Instagram now. And I think we go to here, and then if I'm right, music will kind of fade out on its own, maybe, if I time it right. Almost. Hi, welcome to Hal Sparks Mornings Megaworldwide. It's another week in paradise, ladies and gentlemen. I guess we should change the name from Paradise to Roll the Dice. That'd probably be a good idea. Chat room, I don't... I see Tara in the background. There she is. Oh, so good. She's with us now. Let me pop her in there. You're doing just fine. I don't know what people... Yes, you are. Hold on one second. Let me pop you in here if I may. Oops, let me make sure. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Boink. So hopefully it'll pop her up just in 1 second. 3, 2, 1. Boink. There she is. Look at that. Now I just have to expand her. If you will. Dun, da, 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 and I'll move you around a little bit. Because it's always a wild card with the framing of the thing. And there's the loveliness. And good morning and hello and hi.
Hi.
And where do we even begin? Well, we begin.
You know, I think we should begin with the unelected Nazi immigrant and his Hitler Youth hackers who are now in control of our financial information and the treasury, and
Right.
should not be. That
Sure.
should not be, right? So
Um,
the way
agreed.
I see it, Democratic leadership right this second, and I don't know why they're not already, why it already hasn't happened.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I checked, Capitol Police and the DC Police don't work for Donald Trump exclusively.
Right. They're not the
And
PLA, right?
hacking into government systems to threaten our national security is a federal offense.
Mm-hmm.
Doge is not a real office. Elon Musk doesn't have a real job. He's not elected. Why haven't they all been arrested already? Because
okay.
It's unconscionable that all of this is happening, and Democrats are like tweeting, well, this is bad. Shit's bad. We're going to make a plan. It's like, no, you should have. I mean, the should haves are behind us. But I'm very, very scared and worried that Democrats are like, well, maybe we'll have a meeting about this. And it's happening in this moment as we are speaking. It started yesterday or over the weekend because fuckface went golfing in Florida and Elon was like, just give me the keys, daddy. And he went in the building and threw out everybody who actually worked there and then installed like 19-year-old hackers who went in, and they have our social security numbers. They have our financial information. They're going to take over all of America's financial systems. And everyone's like, and I can't form a sentence because I'm fucking furious. And so I've been awake a long time already today, and I made some phone calls, not just to Democrats, but to Republicans as well. Nobody voted for this. MAGA kids in the chat, did you vote for this? Because you did not.
Here's the thing. The curious thing, and we've dealt with this a bunch with his wanting to get rid of FEMA, and then all of a sudden, where's the pushback coming from on getting rid of FEMA? From Republican corners, because
I'm trying to frame the book. There it is. Okay.
Well, because red states benefit from FEMA and federal programs more than blue states do. And that, these two trains are headed towards each other. The expendable people amongst the public that Elon Musk and his ilk, and Trump even goes on about like, fast racehorses produce fast racehorses, and all of his sort of racist, bigoted bullshit about the general notion of there are the haves and the have-nots for a reason, and this is a meritocracy and blah, blah, blah. Well, I got news for you. When you institute a meritocracy in the United States of America, if you really went down and just cut to the bore, what you would find is blue states and blue cities produce all the money and all the business and all the inventions and all the everything. And red states absorb federal dollars for the implementation of some of those things, be it the space program or military bases or ammunition or steel production that, are things that are subsidized by the U.S. government, therefore the taxpayer, therefore where the major parts of the taxes come from. They come from blue states. They come from, from blue cities. So at some point, in the weirdest way, my concern for my fellow citizens is less for the realization that a lot of, I think, Musk's ilk find when they get into that system is that there's a bunch of money going to shore up blue states, is that there's almost all the money goes to shoring up red states. And they got to take that shit on a tray and walk it into the Oval Office and go, welcome to fucking Oklahoma out of their existence the next time there's a tornado. Here's how all these red states in the north part of Florida's panhandle lives off the federal tit. And then what? Right? Then what? Then is it just cash and carry? It becomes a bank robbery that turns into a smash and grab. Let's just make money while we can and fuck off, because that seems to be what's happening. That seems to be the reality.
It really does. It's almost like they're looting the government. They're looting. They're like, it's basically what they're doing. They're trying to get everything that they can as fast as they can, because maybe they think someone's going to catch up to them or something. Right. I don't know. But, I'm tired of seeing strongly worded tweets from the likes of Elizabeth Warren, who's like, this is really inappropriate. Well, if it's inappropriate, fucking do something. You're not powerless. There is a razor thin margin for Republicans, specifically
Right.
in the House. And so there are things that can be done. And I am tired of everybody going, well, you know, in a democracy, everything's got to be peaceful. They're not doing a peaceful transfer of power. They never were. This is a bloodless coup being played out right in front of us. This is January 6th was a bloody coup attempt that failed. This is a bloodless coup that is succeeding right in front of us because nobody's putting up any guardrails or blockades to prevent them from doing it. And like they're talking. Last night, Eric Swalwell actually did something that made me feel a little bit better. And he made a video on his Instagram saying, okay, here's the plan. And the plan is we're going to talk about what the plan is we're going to talk about what we're going to do.
Well, okay.
Is the plan.
Real quick. I'm look, I'm all for solving things as they come, but I also am not going to buy into the like chase the laser pointer thing. And there are a lot of things in these stories. You know me and my yeah buts in a news story.
That's why I'm so glad I get to talk to you today because I'm so on the ledge with this, and I know that you're going to talk us back.
Okay, so the story in the New York Times, which has not been particularly friendly to the to Democrats and trying to accomplish things in this thing, and it seemed to be in a kind of weird toss up about reality these days. There's a judicious or I guess an extravagant use of words like allies and seem to have in a lot of these situations, even insofar as Elizabeth Warren brought up her questions about Besant and Musk's allies have gained access to da-da-da. Okay, we have known since the beginning of this that Doge is not a real department, even if Trump thinks he can declare it. It's just a fucking committee that at the bottom of every executive order is if this violates the law, it's nullified kind of thing. And that's exactly what it is, a bunch of fucking PR documents. But the essence of it is that allies mean what will they share with someone else? Now, there are legal limitations on what you can materially. You can't walk a fucking thumb drive over and give it to Elon Musk or anybody outside the government that doesn't have clearance for these kind of things specifically. It's against the law, and Besant himself and some others know this to some degree. So that's why the fuzziness around the details of this, and like, again, the concern before they get too close is the part and might be why their hair isn't on fire quite yet, is because they know that this fuzziness exists. And the fuzziness in the story is somebody made a phone call and went, oh my God, we're paying USAID 40% for overhead through the Treasury Department, and we should be paying them less than 10% as above. Okay, that's not a release of, the story's still true. They have access to information via allies in the Treasury Department that covers millions of people, but it's not actually the people's information, right? Okay, so that's one of the issues I have with some of these stories as they come out. Because again, it creates the stroke of the pen fallacy, which is, there are laws in the books that can stop this kind of thing. Why aren't they doing something? Well, technically, the laws in the books are still working until we find out they aren't. Now, the concern is, do they get out ahead of the law and then it's too late? Once you've got those details, are they now out in? Does Elon Musk have a hard drive with everybody's social security number on it? Right.
That's what they're making it sound like, right? That they're all walking around.
And that's my problem. Right. That's my problem with the story, because there is too much wiggle room in this. Okay. The letter that was signed. Let me see if I can bring this up. And
while you're bringing that up, I would also like everyone to know that Elon was tweeting yesterday that USAID caused COVID deaths of millions of people.
Yeah, he got that from
That's the
Joni.
Propaganda shit that he's
doing. Yeah, but he got that from
just
Joni Ernst, for fuck's sake. Like, again, none of this is coming from, like, that's not the kind of detail you find out when you hack the Treasury, right? That's not what's going on. And there are limits upon limits upon limits upon who can access what data, and SCIFs and all that stuff still exist. Now, the worry are there people in the Oval Office that are just so fucking dumb that they don't know how hacking works? And I've expressed a couple of times how goddamn simple it is that it's like CIA headquarters. CIA headquarters is incredibly opaque and difficult to get into. But once you're in, it's wide open. That's the problem. That they addressed this about 10 years ago. But one of the things that led up to the issues that we're having with the sharing of information and all this stuff is that they overcorrected after 9/11, and anybody who came in there on a fucking visitor's pass technically could trip, fall, shove a USB drive into a laptop nearby, walk away and go, sorry, I'm going to get another cup of coffee, and that thing has everything, right? So that was they kind of woke up to that fact about a decade ago. I don't know. Nobody does. That's in my realm of. I can't find any direct information that anybody knows if those kind of countermeasures have been in the Treasury. The belief is that they have. And so most of what Elon Musk's shit is, what he's doing, is that and again, this is The Guardian wrote an article, and this is what they're referencing. Elon Musk's Doge team granted, quote, full access to federal payment system. Trump's Treasury Secretary gives the world's richest person entry to one of the most sensitive U.S. government databases. The Department of has been given access to the federal payment system, exposing the sensitivity. Like, this is how the article wrote out. Okay. Ron Wyden brought it up. From Oregon,
that's
the
my
member.
Senator.
Yep, posted on Blue Sky.
I have
sources
called him so many times. I met him at the DNC, and I saw him the next morning at the airport, and I reminded him how,
right.
I've always respected how he stood up for Oregonians and protected Jewish Americans like me, and I expected him to keep doing that. And he was like, of course, now
right.
I can't get the man to respond to a voicemail. It's fine.
Well, I mean, I also think they're trying to figure out what
they're a little busy. They're a little busy. Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah.
I hope they're busy. I hope they're so busy right now.
Right. There you go. Well, that's the issue. So the story breaks out because Ron Wyden had brought up the fact that sources had told him that Elon Musk had been granted full access to the federal payment system. Okay. To Social Security, Medicare benefits, grants, payments to government contractors, all of it. That was Wyden's quote, right? And that's what set this all off. And again, we don't know what the sources are, if it's just people in the Treasury going, because we all know that there are lines where somebody goes, look, if they step over this line, they technically have access to all of this. Are they accessing it is not the same thing as do they have access? Now, the assumption is because it's Musk, they will. Or that his people are there, or that Besson is allowing them to do this. And that's the scary part, because we don't know. There's a big padded zone in there. The issue that you have is that, again, this would be a situation where Besson, under orders from Trump to cut funds, does not include Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, for example. And so that access point goes against what they're telling each other, not what they're telling the public, but what they're telling each other. That's part of the fight that's been going on inside. The question is, does Musk even give a shit? And if he has, again, if there's once you're in, you're in. And his ability to get that stuff is one thing. What he does with it is the scary part. And that unravels everything. Again.
And he is not an elected official, is what I always go back to. And he should not be there. It is the bottom line. And no one fucking elected him. So
well, the irony is that's what he talks about so he does all these like on X, they do these fucking like racist radio, whatever the fuck those gatherings are they have on the spaces, whatever.
All the spaces, he was doing one last night, and it was called Mars/Doge. I'm like, if you're taking Doge to Mars, please leave fucking right now.
Start now. Right, yeah. Well,
take all the Nazis with you. Start a Nazi colony on Mars.
So he brought on Joni Ernst onto one of these races gatherings, and her big complaint is the opaqueness of USAID and how do you know what's being spent where and blah 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 blah. Okay, now. Every administration goes after waste, fraud, and abuse in the government, right? And they have varying degrees of success. And they all complain about red tape and bureaucracy and wouldn't it be easier? It'd be easier if I was the decider, that kind of thing. If I was a dictator. Remember that shit? Okay, if
there was more strategery. If we just implemented more strategery.
Same fucking gripe every goddamn time. And what ultimately boils down, in the conversation, and this is what again, I can only take away from what it sounds like people know from how they're talking. Okay? And if I had access to the entirety of the U.S. database and was speaking flippantly like he does, you'd let loose a lot more unknown details, or a lot more, stuff that hasn't just been in memo after memo after memo from the Congress to the fucking Treasury or to the fucking the IG, for example, which is still in place at the Treasury, which is interestingly enough, it's one of the people they didn't fire. And
Yet.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll see. But Joni Ernst's complaint is and has been that she's been trying to figure out, where does the money go for USAID and how much of it goes to USAID, like the Red Cross. The concern with the Red Cross a lot of times is that they show up just after something happens, and a huge portion of the money that they take in goes to overhead and keeping the organization going. Now, those numbers are always bullshit function, because the money that they take in for the thing is transfers through other groups, so they technically consider that administration, even though they're administering the transport of that money to a smaller organization in the local area that distributes shit, and that group takes 10% of theirs. They live off that, and then the rest of it actually goes to the people. So when you go 40%, it shrinks down to actually the administrative part of it is about that much. What they're doing is they're just secondarily handing it out to other NGOs. And those folks have an even smaller slice out of that, and so the administrative state of it is actually maybe a tenth of what they say it is. But it does, on paper, it looks like 40% goes straight to hot tubs in your apartment in Paris and dinners out with whatever. That's what they want to sell, and that's how Elon Musk and Joni Ernst talk about it. The only difference is that Joni Ernst says, "I've been trying to figure out. I have no idea." And Elon Musk is like, we got to find out.
Have your job then. I don't know.
Right. Well, no, I mean, they write to this, and then the IG can either respond or not inside the government, because they got shit to do. Right. And a lot of this, there's so many unknowns about it that you can overwhelm people and it becomes a wash. That's what they hope for. There's the complexity as a response in and of itself. And you see this in any business. Anytime somebody, like the one person between you and the relatively simple situation between you and the solution, and they're like, it'll take all week. Did you watch Mindhunter, the series?
I did. Excellent show.
Love it. All right. So, and it's a great look at psychological interpretation, bureaucracy in the FBI, and post, right? And the growth of analysts within versus field agents, and the shifting of the field agents to the U.S. Marshals, which has become part of a thing. And so you'll notice, besides the 8 or 10 people that Trump fired, that he's definitely getting specifically added their name on a list, the vast majority of the people that they're letting go at FBI field offices are analysts, because there's been a growth of 3-to-1 analysts in each field office over time, because that's what you do most of the time. It's like investigators versus door kickers, that idea. You need less door kickers on complicated things, like tracing a dude across state lines who's on a murder or rape spree is less about just the fax ma'am and knocking on doors and taking notes as it is to going, okay, let's track all of his credit card shit, and this victim's credit card showed up here, and da-da-da. Okay, so the growth of analysts also corresponded with a success rate in catching people. Just like it, but they seem to disassociate that because they don't know how shit works. And that's my biggest concern with these folks, is that they don't know how shit works. So it's easy to go to the average person and go, there's 3 analysts for every investigator. Well, analysts are investigators, fuckwad. So no, there aren't. What there are is there's field agents. There's a quarter of field agents, and 3/4 of them are now internal, because that's how most of the FBI stuff cross state lines happens. They don't drive around in a fucking car like it's 1985 bugging the locals. Mm-hmm. This is a similar situation with the Treasury and the issue in here. So that there are walls against this. Besson is allowing him the broad strokes. I think that's the, and again, he's talking about it in terms of those idiotic broad strokes. He's talking about it like somebody who's getting secondhand information, not somebody who's going, I'm looking right here at, and $41 million is going to this, and da-da-da-da. He's saying the exact same shit Joni Ernst complains about not knowing any more than that from her filings that she gets back. And that's where Besant is protecting his nut. And this is where, like, the self-interest of these fuckers is our only real protection at this point, is that Besant can't let Musk, who he kind of knows is a fucking moron, crash shit. The allies part is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Allies is not, an ally cannot, within any kind of, top secret or secret situation, just hand you the information. That's not how it works. They have to work on your behalf. So there's this relay going on. This fucking game of telephone is happening with the Doge group in the Senate and in the House, and Musk himself, and Trump's cabinet people. And to the extent that they are fucking stupid and useless, that's a longer game of telephone. Besant knows what he's doing. So it's a shorter chain. And most of what they want to cut or work around, they have so little to work with because, again, 3/4 of the budget is already spoken for. There's only 1/4 of it that's discretionary. And part of that discretionary, almost all of it, I would say, almost all of that discretionary funds helps red states more than it does blue states. So one of the reasons Democrats might be slow walking this shit is because they know there's not going to be a change in the electorate until the red states feel some pain. And back home in their own states, they're going, okay, we need the states' AGs are going to have to file lawsuits against Musk having access to people's stuff, whether it happens or not, whether they have evidence or not, just to get the ball rolling. That's what's happening in the states. I'm fairly certain the California AG is working on that right now, and so is New York. It's illegal, and it will always be illegal, and the president can't just order it to not be illegal. That's not how that works at all. He can't just, again, he can commit a crime and be himself not guilty of it, but everybody else who carries out an unconstitutional order is still guilty. He isn't. That immunity thing only applies to him, not to the order. The order can still be illegal. And the question is, that's what the whole Oath Keepers thing was, is that they were going to hold up their oath to Trump more than they were going to hold up their oath to the Constitution, or, under the illusion they were supporting the Constitution. So
I'd be curious to hear what they think about him blinking on the tariffs, because he folded right before we went on the air.
Yes, with Mexico.
Them. And that shows you how fucking arbitrary this trade war is, because he conjured it out of thin air. We were fine. Prices were fine under Joe Biden 2.5 weeks ago. Do you know it was only a few weeks ago that Joe Biden's the prices were fine, and then Trump came in here and he started his grudge fuck against the country on behalf of Putin.
Right.
And so that, and all of these things are happening all at the same time. But the fact is, we can continue to be putting pressure. I mean, the benefits freeze got turned over because everybody was putting pressure on their Republican reps, and they in turn put pressure on Trump. So if we just keep embarrassing him publicly, he'll continue to fold. It's all the negative publicity around the shit that he's doing that's making him change his mind. So he cares about his ego and what he looks like in the press. So if we can, at the bare minimum, if you can just keep shining that glaring light on his ugly orange face while he keeps fucking shit up for his own people, right, that's a big part of the battle for us.
Well, here's the thing. The illusion of being a great negotiator is what a lot of people are riding on, and the idea that tariffs are just leverage is how he is. How he got through the election, against the idea that tariffs will fuck up everything. The issue with an across-the-board tariff kind of implementation is he just jacked up the Chinese ones 10% more on limited stuff. But that's it's materially indifferent to the ones. It's like, how much more past impossible can you go as far as selling and buying certain things from China at this point? And China's collapse is continuing apace, and it's pretty fucking miserable right now over there, business-wise. So that 10% on top of, it's like if somebody was burying you alive, another shovel of dirt once you're covered doesn't really matter. And so that's why he only made it 10%, and he had room to move as well. So what he wants to do is look tougher as this goes on, and because if he starts at 30, where do you go? Again, these are all worthless numbers. So he's just trying to, this is more for our benefit than it is for the rest of the world. The Mexican one was always bullshit. He didn't reverse course because people were screaming in the public. Because the screaming in the public he lives off of, and the idea that he's a good negotiator and that they agreed to give 10,000 soldiers, put them on the troop temporarily for the next month. It's just a fucking blather. The number of people crossing has dwindled anyways, and it was always dwindling post-COVID. That's just how it's been working, and it's going to keep going down. But it'll look like, because they put 10,000 soldiers there, that there are fewer people coming across. The person who shut it down was Bessent. Scott Bessent and Howard Lutnick, and who's his trade secretary, and Marco Rubio were either in on this is just a bluff and we're going to call it off, and to look like we're muscling things, and they're making fucking phone calls behind it like, look, he's going to do this. Just say you're sending 10,000 troops. You don't even have to fucking send them. It doesn't matter, right? That's the thing. I swear to God, like, that's what's happening behind the scenes. But it was meant to be this hot bluff, and he thinks this is going to work. And then
it's just our economy is not for you to fucking play with, right? And our well-being and our daily lives and our existence, the government isn't supposed to be fucking with us like this, and we're not supposed to feel pain from our government and all of this twisting of our emotions. And it's all so fucking arbitrary and ridiculous that he can say, all right, well, today there's tariffs, tomorrow there's not. And when the Dow opens in the red like it did today, that's what he's embarrassed by. He's embarrassed by Republicans who and corporations who are like, hey, you promised us up, not crash, crash, crash. So now that's why he blinked. It was less about us going, hey, this is bad what you're doing, and more about the money and the corporations being like, this isn't what you promised us. You need to knock this shit off now.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Obviously, Trump is a dough-headed fuckhead and who cannot comprehend the impacts of his actions. But the people around him do. And a lot of them, even if they're just nudging him in a direction they like, where they know they can nudge him back. Do you know how much money there is to be? I posted this yesterday. I was trying to get this across. You know how many ways there are to make money on eggs that don't involve raising chickens, producing eggs, transporting eggs, and selling eggs, or cooking them for consumption? If you don't, go watch Trading Places again, because the trading of commodities in and of itself is a thing, because there's a trend towards it. People don't want to bank on whether or not there'll be enough for demand versus how many. It's a perishable, so you can't buy stock in fucking eggs any more than you can on next year's strawberry harvest. And so there's a lot of money to be made in the risk. Okay, there's a lot of risk in that. And if you're willing to put your cheese in the wind to leverage that risk, people will go, all right, it's this or lose my shirt every 2 years. So, okay, you can make some money on it by holding this shit for a little while, but it might blow up in your fucking face, right? That's what the crop report storyline is in Trading Places. They thought that the frost would affect the harvest, and it turns out it didn't. So there was too much. So everybody bought it at a high price because they thought there'd be too little. And then they were like, we'll buy it back from you for this much. And then we've got all there is, and we can sell it and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Same thing is true of all these things. To some degree, because of the hedge fund class, because of day traders and all that kind of stuff, there's always a window where you can ride a crisis or buy a dip. And this has become common knowledge amongst most people. It might have been something that in pre-1982, buying the dip was like something you'd only hear in Gordon Gekko's office, where people weren't aware of this. Now it's a regular thing. It's so regular that they could target the end of the 2008 crash even without stimulus, that it was gonna rebound. It was just the difference is, how long do we suffer through that rebound? Is it a year and a half, 2 years, or is it 30? Is it Japan, or is it a post-COVID, right? And now Trump is surrounded by a bunch of people, and this is more of my financial concern than almost anything, is that because he's not divested from his shit, he's an idiot. So is Don. So is Eric. But they got enough people around him who are like, wait a second, if you guys move this decimal point, right, that's a $500 million, right? That's what they're talking about. Okay. So there is an impetus in the Trump White House not to crash the economy, but to fuck with it on a cycle that only they and their buddies know when it's coming. So the value crashing it doesn't help Trump in the long run. Crashing it doesn't help Trump's buddies in the long run. But weakening it and strengthening it and weakening it, because it's growing whether nobody knows, like nobody knows like the arc of the growth, but the growth is like insurmountable compared to everybody else's, because it's a gathering point. The U.S. economy is a gathering point for the world's economy. So the rest of even when other stuff is going down, all the middle of it, it's like the top of the bell curve financially, because that's where everybody goes. If you're scared shitless, that's why the dollar is still fucking strong, even though everybody thinks we printed too much. Tommy Billieu, you fucking tool. They're like,
oh my God,
yeah.
It's frustrating because, like, just this morning, Lawrence O'Donnell, who is a respected journalist, and we all love Lawrence O'Donnell, literally tweeted, "Why didn't CNBC spend more time explaining tariffs to the American people?" I was like, fuck you, really? Because
He did, though. Wait. He did.
But they did.
But he's
They
on
did,
at
but
fucking 10 o'clock at night.
And then, but he's talking about CNBC. He's talking about why CNBC didn't spend more time every single day on the tariffs and the threat of the tariffs, and why didn't more people talk about it in the media. And I was like, Kamala Harris talked about it all the time on the campaign, but everyone was worried about her being likable and relatable. 23 Nobel Prize winning economists sent a letter saying her plan was exponentially better and that his would crash the economy. And I never saw that on the news, ever. So
wait. Hold on. No. That's hold on. That I got to push back for 1 second. That isn't materially true. MSNBC covered a bunch of times. They covered the.
I'm not talking about MSNBC. I'm talking about.
But you brought up Lawrence, and Lawrence is on the air, and he was complaining about CNBC, and I think the reason he was complaining was it was almost like they were talking into a fucking balloon. Over at MSNBC, and it didn't carry anywhere else. The problem is in CNBC, it was CNN, it was the CBS evening news, it was local news across the country that prioritized, like immigrant issues like it was a fucking car chase compared to, the things that will affect people's lives long term, especially the financial costs of both mass deportations and of of tariffs.
And now we're seeing the media fully capitulating to Trump and giving him millions of dollars, which is ridiculous. And ABC should get their money back because they did not defame him. They told the truth about the case with E. Jean Carroll. And all of these people paying tributes to him and bending a knee when they're not supposed to. And then we have Brendan Carr in charge of the FCC. And so it's this circle of where can we assign the blame next? And the blame is on all of them. It's they're all equally guilty of not doing enough to warn the American people, and passing the buck at Monday morning quarterbacking literally does nothing except churn us up more. Okay, well, they did that. What are you gonna do now? How are you going to report on this going forward? How are you going to make sure that the real stories get out to the American people? When Chuck Todd leaves NBC News because he doesn't like how it's going, shit is bad. Like, if you're finding common ground with Chuck Todd and he's like, I can't do this anymore, like, that's the shit to worry about. It's supporting independent media, but still trying to figure out how we verify any facts anymore. And all of these things making this perfect storm of how do we trust information, and then what do we do with it once we have actual information so that we can still continue to hold our elected officials accountable. That's ultimately what we can do, because it does come down to how do we deal with this? How do we function as a society under this, whatever's happening to us? And how do we live day to day when they're trying to fuck with everything?
Right. Well,
that's where we are collectively, and so it's the onus is on us.
I agree, but I also know that
we have to be making them. We've talked about accountability repeatedly every single week on this show, and the other thing that I talk about repeatedly is how I don't want anybody to die because of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Not MAGA people, not our people, no people. 67 people died because of Donald Trump last Wednesday night. Okay? The incident at DCA was DJT, not DEI. And when you put the guy from Road Rules in charge of the Department of Transportation, and he's more concerned about giving rewards to employees who are into forced births and removing Black History Month and all of the wrong things. That's why we're less safe, because they're making us less safe and they're doing it deliberately. These are the stories that should be told to the American people. This is what more people need to know about. And we know because we live like this and we put our faces in it every day, but the average American doesn't get told this. And that's why we get questions like, why didn't Democrats do more? And that's not helpful. Like, it's about going forward. And we talked about this last week too. I don't want to hear you and I also talked to friend of the show, Kimberly Johnson, Bob Seska's partner. And she has a new podcast about manifestation. And I talked to her last week and we talked about manifesting and we talked about dealing with what we have going forward and accountability. And it is just continuing to shine a light wherever we can. And the voices that are doing it the loudest are the independent ones. And so we have to continue to lift each other up. You have a new Substack everybody should be signed up for. I have a Substack everybody should be signed up for. Political Voices Network has the Substack everybody should be signed up for. And it is continuing to lift the voices that are telling the truth, because ultimately that has to be the loudest thing that is getting out into the world, and we have to keep pushing. So
I agree.
And we just saw that memo about real media being replaced with offices in the Capitol by Newsmax and OAN. Like we're replacing NPR in there with Breitbart. These are the things that the American people at large don't know about.
Right, I agree, but I also think like what helps being closer to the lie these days. They're not going to answer real questions from real reporters, anyways. They're going to be defensive and opportunistic about the truth that they tell and blah blah blah. So just having a recording of it works just fine. Now, like in the legacy media, if you want to call it that, the responsibility of them right now would be to storm out of that place anyways with the messaging that's coming out of the White House. Like, it's so obstructive and stupid that at a certain point you just go, I'm not going to get a fucking answer. What am I doing here? I bet it's better that I'm across town at the Department of Defense's, like PR gaggle, whatever they're doing, just to hear what they legally have to say because they have oversight issues. Like, the White House can bullshit its way through anything. So the White House press corps, while it meant something, when it means something when there's a Democrat in office, and it kind of meant something when, you had a reasonable Republican, right now they're audience of wanting it anyways. I'm surprised they haven't moved all the seats out and just put a seat for Trump so he can just listen to her yell back at him in her breathless tone how fucking awesome he is.
It's media
it's
in there
dumb.
That isn't, Fox News. And so what they should have, like, from the first press briefing last week that Caroline led, immediately after that, Democratic leadership should have held their own press conference saying this that she said was a lie. This is actually what's happening. This is this and this is this. And they need to be doing that every single day. Every time she's got a press briefing, immediately afterwards, I want to see Democrats outside the press room talking, taking all of her talking points and telling the American people the truth. That's what you have to stop it in the moment before it, solidifies as fact, which is also something we have talked about on this show. And that's the only way that it's going to continue. I don't think she's going to last very long. I think she's got somewhere between a Scaramucci and a Spicer. But for the time being, while she's in there, and whoever because he's going to end up with 17,000 press secretaries like he did last time.
Yeah.
Every single briefing, I want somebody's job needs to be anti-Caroline Leavitt messaging. Like, every time. So that immediately Democrats are getting that message into the media live.
Being solution-oriented, as you know I like to be.
We both are.
Yes. You might be onto something in that there currently is no Democratic spokesperson in the House and Senate that comes out. Like, each individual, I guess Hakeem Jeffries' office could technically, if they wanted to, either have, he's busy doing shit for real. Too busy, honestly, to do that. But the idea that the DNC or that the Hakeem Jeffries' office doesn't have what's effectively a spokesperson for Democratic ideals, that the Democrats are going, this program won't work. We're just putting our flag in there. You guys need to know we're out of power in this situation. They got a very narrow margin. They have to come to us if we want to work thing. And we want to solve this, this, and this. But this is what she said was not true. This is that would be that person doesn't exist right now, insofar as I know.
I'll do it. You want to hire
right?
me?
Well, we kind
The
of all are.
DNC has brand new leadership now, so they can actually
Right.
assign one of their several vice chairs to that job. I would love to see Malcolm
But the chair
Kenyatta
can't
on
speak
TV
on
every
right.
day.
Understood. But the chair can't speak on behalf of the actual administration of government. It can speak on behalf of, like, priorities in that regard, and it doesn't have access to the information there. So as a point of authority on these things, it's couple steps removed. And that's why a White House spokesperson has weight, even if they're a fucking tool. And so
well, then there needs to be
right.
a Democratic Party press secretary all of our own. Get Karine Jean-Pierre back in there. She can tell the truth. Anybody who can stand up and tell the truth and speak about what they're doing,
right,
and what Democratic leadership intends to do to push back on that every day. And that's when people are like, Democrats don't have a unifying message. Well, okay, find somebody who will go out there every day. Maybe you have 3 people who rotate because it's a tiring job. I don't know. But from Jeffries, from Schumer, we should have some sort of collective person who stands up for congressional Democrats as a whole, so that they can say, here is today's unifying message from Democrats, and today we are pushing back against Caroline Leavitt saying this in the press room when it's this. That is a job that should have been established before the new Congress was even sworn in, so that Democrats had a plan to counteract every bit of bullshit coming out of the White House.
Well, again,
so it's not too late. Make
right,
it happen.
Understood. There's a difference, though. There's a genuine diversity of thought within the Democratic Party, in different districts, right? So the speaker can act on behalf of the party as a whole, but it can't speak on behalf of the actual voting of the people, because that's not how it works. It's supposed to pull them all together. The administration has a unique situation wherein they automatically have this press secretary. They automatically have this, and the administration does singular activities. He can either sign a bill or he can't. He can put an executive order out or he can't. He can follow a law or not, and then they fight it in court. These are effectively what the administrative state does. He can modify tariffs, and he can enter into a treaty with some countries, and then he can only break them off if they haven't been ratified by the Congress. So if the Congress ratifies a treaty, like NATO, for example, the president can't just unilaterally cut it. But if Congress doesn't ratify a treaty like the Paris Climate Accord, the president can turn it on and off like a switch, right? And that's always been my issue with the executive order methodology, or as again, I focus on the stroke of the pen fallacy, this idea that that you could just solve it like that. And what happens is enough people believe that shit, where if it hasn't been solved by the 3rd year of your presidency because you have been busting your ass trying to get it across the line because of a myriad of complex issues that focus in on that idea, like DACA and other stuff, they stay. Do their parents stay? How long were they? When do we start and when do we stop? Why would we stop at that point if a kid just got dropped here who's 8 years old? What the fuck is the difference between that? Somebody's back there, they don't speak, or an infant who doesn't speak any language at all, and so doesn't speak the language of where they're going to go back, and we don't know who their parents are, and blah, blah, blah. And we can't genetically prove the person who brought them in is with them without a court order to do such. Like, there's a lot of shit in that, right? And that's why it takes time, because you do want to answer those questions. You do want to get through those things. And instead of embracing the complexity, there's an appeal to emotion on our side and an appeal to authority on the right. And they bang against each other like a bunch of rams, like fucking morons. And then by the end of it, the president's like, okay, I have a choice. I can help these people temporarily or not at all. Scribble. And that's how it happens. And then the next person comes in and goes, I don't want to protect those people. Scribble. And that's it. And that's a terrible thing to do to people's rights. It's why Don't Ask, Don't Tell was weird. It's why, again, relying on Roe v. Wade for women's rights for so long was part of the problem. Trump will talk about how leaving Afghanistan was the most embarrassing moment in American history. And I would argue that every single day between that, from when we knew we shouldn't be there and we weren't going to be capable of building a government and they weren't going to take over, every single day in between that was more embarrassing than the day we left. Because that was the day where you just punted, which is awful, because every death that rolls forward from it, every expenditure, all of it's for naught, right? That's way more embarrassing than pulling the Band-Aid off in that regard. Same thing is true of these so the House and the Senate Democrats both have very distinct roles and very distinct power bases, what they can accomplish, what they can't, different rules, and where they will, stake things out. Now, the Dems do a press conference, right? We've seen a couple of these, but it's usually Hakeem Jeffries or Schumer coming out with 4 other senators, 4 other congresspeople, and then they're all kind of assigned an issue. And they walk up and give their little piece, and then they go back. But this is that's the material legislative aspect of it. So it's languaged like that. It's based on the reality of whatever bills or committee they're working through. And by comparison to the president had the most amazing inauguration and Ted Nugent was the star, right? It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
That's why we need someone.
It's hard to get through.
Going, you heard the lies. Here's the truths. Now
Right.
you get to decide which one you want to believe. But Democrats are invested in making sure you hear the truth, regardless of how hard it is.
Right.
It still matters. And and that's why we have to be relentless in holding them accountable. And you make the phone calls and you reach out to your representatives and your senators, particularly if you live in a red state, because I would posit that, while all MAGA are Republicans, not all Republicans are MAGA. And there will be prevailing heads somewhere that go, yeah, no, I'm not okay with that. And it has happened before where Democrats and Republicans have come together to go, here's an issue that we agree is bad for the country, so we're going to work on making sure it stops. That would be great to see right now. And that's why I can't give up. No one's giving up. That's what Kimberly and I also talked about on the podcast. Like, you can take your breaks and you can feel exhausted and you can lean into the self-care, but ultimately we have to keep on them every single day. And this is why and maybe you can help with this, Hal. Every single congressional Democrat needs a Blue Sky account. Every single one. So we don't have to go to Twitter anymore. Because literally, that's the only reason that I'm still keeping my Twitter account active. Because that's where they are.
Right.
That's where I can go right to them and respond to their tweets and go, but this, and can you please and think and hear. And I don't care whoever else sees it. And what I do know is, because I've been doing a lot of hashtag Elon is a Nazi, my account is so throttled right now that it's almost useless for me to be there at all. But if I can respond to Democrats who are still in Congress and say, hi, I'm here watching you, then great. I'm going to keep doing that until I don't have to do that anymore. And I won a small victory because last week I told you about Tim Murtaugh from the Heritage Foundation, who works for Donald Trump, and how he's on me like white on rice and was just harassing me and doing all of this shit. And I'm like, well, you promised to answer my questions. So all weekend long, I was like, hey, why is this happening? And he blocked me. So
right now,
a small victory there in that he no longer wants to have to answer my questions because my questions are hitting a little too close to home. So let's keep asking questions and keep making demands of our elected people. Breaking news, yay.
A little bit.
What we got?
No, not yet. The USAID.gov website just went offline. I literally refreshed it, right at the top of the show, and it is
great.
now offline. Now, USAID. All right. What is, or what was, or what will be USAID? It's the Agency for International Development. And so you can see why they targeted it right away. It is the agency by which U.S. taxpayer dollars are dispersed to NGOs and programs meant, in developing countries or in situations where we do grant programs with other countries. So this is 100% why why it was targeted, its existence. The belief system that they have been pushing for a long time, and this is part of that whole Joni Ernst thing, is that what USAID does that is worthwhile should be under the State Department's purview, not a secondary agency. And so culling the USAID and moving it under the State Department will make it more open to congressional approval, because USAID Yes, USAID was anti-apartheid, but so was the entire country. So that's partly why he hated it. Why Musk hates it. But again,
I'm so tired of him having any impact on our country. It makes my skin feels like it's on fire. Like,
right.
What if Joe Biden was just like, hey, my buddy's gonna go over there to USAID and he's just gonna fuck shit up because I can. People would have lost their fucking minds if he let a civilian.
Right. But that's also because
because
Democrats don't do that. It's one of the things where they have us by the short and curlies as far as what our impact can be. Because, I've always bring it back to fucking, Zod realizing Superman's weakness. He cares about these people. And so you've always got Democrats in the responsibility chair. And until we can shift that responsibility to Republicans, they're not going to do anything about it. Right now, the only place they feel it is somehow on a semi-local basis with like immigrant crime and the Laken Rileys of the world, right? That's where they feel it. Like they think these people are their responsibility, and this villain, the illegal immigrants, the cartels, whatever it is, they have extrapolated that out. And if it doesn't stop, or if it continues and they can't continue to blame it on Democrats or whatever, whoops, lost you for a second, you're back. They're going to catch hell for it. My personal belief is that it'll happen in two areas. One is they don't realize how much SNAP stuff benefits red states. That'll be the primary one. That's the first one. The second one is
why they unfroze the freeze because
yes, and disaster aid, right? So and again, the news should be that Democrats should celebrate the unfreeze of it because red states need it. The whole point should be that how you draw attention to it matters, not just that you do, because you and I are naturally outraged and horrified by some of the shit that they're doing. But that outrage is food for them. That outrage is what they're looking for. If the right people are mad and the right people are breathless and the right people are, feel like their skin is on fire, that's a success. And it's enough of a success whether the actual action is a success or not. It doesn't have to be useful. It's just if it makes the right people mad, that's food for MAGA, right? And they know this, right? And so the issue that we have is that we have a responsibility in how we frame these things so that it's in their lap. And I have to say in terms of, there was this phrase, somebody said it early on, was like, we have to shove the presidency down Trump's throat, that he's got to feel the responsibility of the office.
Yeah, absolutely.
And before age has caught up with him and he's definitely a mess. And before the assassination attempt last summer, where he apparently was confronted by his own mortality for the first time, even if he's mentally seemingly incapable of truly processing it.
Bullshit.
Right, but even if he didn't but even if he didn't participate in the staging or understand how far it went or was scared by the idea that it's actually that easy to do, the point is that he speaks about himself from a weaker standpoint than he did before. Whether, and again, staged maybe, but staged by him or with his help, right? Did somebody...
With his knowledge, I mean, he stood up and held up his whittled fist and did the photo op and asked for his shoes back. So, and remember, he wasn't shot, he was shot at.
And he was nicked. And again,
and he still has a whole ear. And we never saw a medical report or heard from a real doctor. Fishy. And immediately he became best friends with Elon Musk. And 2 weeks later, he was bragging he had all the votes he needed. And that was in the month of July. It's fine. MSNBC covered it one time on the Maddow show and never resumed talking about the fact that they bragged they already had the votes and no one would ever have to vote or vote again. One time doesn't stick in this news cycle. You got to beat people over the head. If you want something to last and, stick to a person, you have to repeat these things over and over. This is what he did. This is what he said. Here he is on camera saying it. Here he is again saying it. Here he is the day before the inauguration bragging how they rigged the election. Here's a quote from Ken Paxton saying Elon Musk told him that he was fucking shit up for the election with his fancy satellites. Maybe look into that. I I don't know. It's still not too late to investigate the election. And here's the other thing that Democrats could do. You can impeach Trump a third time. And I know that MAGA Republicans yet again. MAGA Republicans won't vote to convict him a third time, but it doesn't matter. You need to put that shit in the historic record anyway. That's what impeachment can do, is he did all of these things. This is why we're impeaching him a third time. It's in the historic record. Do with that what you will. It still matters. It's not just a performative thing. If Democrats should absolutely be drawing up new articles of impeachment right now. He's making us less safe. He started making us less safe on day one, and all of it is to please Putin. All of it. And he's fucking with America for the sake of fucking with us. That's not okay. MAGA kids in the chat. I understand what you think you were voting for, but let's go back to the point of it's hard for you to own the libs if you're not able to own a house or buy food, because you will be bankrupt. You will have no money. You will have no place to live. You're going to have to sell your car, your truck, whatever vehicle you use. Everything is going up. And now the narrative is, oh, well, we don't mind paying extra to support our country. That's not what he promised you. He promised you lower prices on day one. He promised you mass deportations on day one. He promised you the war in Ukraine would end on day one. But now it's okay. It's okay to keep moving the goalposts because he said so. And, again, it's about Democrats holding you guys accountable, MAGA kids, and saying this is what you said, but this is what you did. And, ignore what they say, watch what they do. There's a reason they use distraction so that Elon Musk and his, not Hitler Youth hackers can stroll on into USAID and fuck with shit. It'd be great if, just Democrats need to stop being nice. Nice is not going to stop fascism or anything else. And so it's what are you doing today?
Well, also,
what are we doing tomorrow? Have a real plan.
Does nice always look the same?
No.
Okay. Is someone who is pretending to be nice to you and saying, well, bless your heart, always on your side and while they're trying to do this? Right. And I think there is a value to recognizing that there is more than one tactic in appearance versus what you're doing behind the scenes. And again, this goes back to my whole Fetterman thing where everybody was like, fuck Fetterman and his fucking votes. And I'm like, how did he vote? I'm like, oh, he voted against it. But he's playing nice, but then he votes against it. Fine. That's democracy. Like, that's how committees work most of the time. That's not the problem I have an issue with. The problem I have an issue with would be somebody like Menendez, who's like voting with us a bunch of the times, and then his only amendment is helping out Egypt because he's getting bars of gold in the fucking mail, right? That would be.
And he's going to prison for 11 years.
Exactly, which is how it should be, and we're fine with that, and we should continue to move that. I'm not again. I have zero time in my own daily work for how Democrats might try to respond, knowing that last time it was full resistance to the point of almost cartoonishness because the word resistance showed up in the fucking Dark Crystal and in all the Star Wars movies because it became like a cultural phenomenon word that didn't end up actually amounting to much because verbal resistance versus what you can actually do is meaningless. And so, it just became a puffery act, which is what Trump does, and I have no interest in it. My thing is, I want to see how they're actually voting, what really is meaningful on the ground, and their approach to manipulating this White House. Because, I think the day that Mitch McConnell comes out and says this, and the Wall Street Journal says this tariff war is stupid and it's dumb, and this is the dumbest trade war ever, all right? That
he did yesterday. On 60 Minutes.
Why
do you want to do this with your allies is what Mitch McConnell said.
Yeah, right.
Okay, Moscow Mitch, why do you think?
A Democrat coming out and going, targeted tariffs are a great idea. It's just blanket ones don't work. It's going to raise prices on Americans. And stop fighting the dude, because we all know how gross he is, and just leave the reality at his doorstep. It's going to sound nicer. It's going to sound like you're treating him like a real person, like you're treating him like a real president. It's going to sound like you're acting like there's nothing, no problem there. But to the limit of your powers and manipulating a dipshit like this, that's what you got. And he's falling for it. Like it's
course.
working, right?
Well,
And
what
that
also worked was Canada going, oh, you're going to tariff us? Okay, we're going to fuck with your red states then. And that's another reason why Trump folded today, because the red states were like, oh, no, you don't get to do this to us.
Well, has he lifted the Canadian ones or just the Mexican ones? He paused the Mexico ones for a month.
For now, but it's going to happen with the Canadian ones too. I bet you anything, because they specifically are targeting red states with their own tariffs. So, you know, the whiskey and the maple syrup and all those things. Trudeau announced he's going to do it to red states worse on purpose, because that's what Trump is doing with his tariffs. So if you want to start a trade war, you better realize that that the other people are going to hit back harder, because you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Okay, as of an hour ago, the pause is just Mexico. He said Monday morning, following the talks with Mexican President
Mexico,
Claudia Sheinbaum.
Just wait, because he's going to end up.
Tariffs on Canada and China are still going ahead for now. Yeah. The troop, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
He's going to keep blinking. He has to. It's going to happen, like you said at the beginning of the show, when it impacts Republicans and Republicans get angry, when they're mad, when they finally realize when it's hitting them personally and they're pushing back against him. That's when it's going to. That's when the tide turns, and that's what happened with the benefits freeze. There were enough people in red states complaining to their their reps and their senators, and so everything that he does, he's not just doing it to Democrats. Everyone in the chat who's MAGA, it's you too. And I don't understand, like, the cult is still not pushing back against it, even though it's hurting them.
We've been through this. We've been on this fucking pony before. Look at the trade war with China over agricultural goods. China, they import 80 to 85% of their energy and food. Okay. That's a terrible situation to be in a country. So you need all the food you can get from all over the world, including the United States. They're buying soybeans. One of the reasons why we grow soybeans in the United States at the scale that we do, it's almost responsible for the rise in tofu sales in the United States, is because we have so much leftover soy that's grown in the country that they started repurposing it and going, well, we can sell some of it here because we can't ship all of it. Like that, you could track it. But the reason for growing it in the first place was China imports all of it. So what did Trump do? He basically said, fuck the farmers. They're going to have to suck it up for a while. And then when it really started to hurt, he used taxpayer funds to basically pay them. He didn't take them from tariffs paid by other people. That money itself, he just basically bought them off. And we've seen this with the debt ceiling too, or shutting down the government, that there's an 8-day window before people really start feeling the pain. And you can look like you're being macho or tough on something. And the question is, like, right now, we're in a game of chicken. The game of chicken with Mexico, we were gonna lose. That's what Besant told him. That's what like, you shut down trade with Mexico. Texas is fucked, and there's so many goods coming out of there. We can't win it. Like, too many of our companies, like, we've reshored factories from China to Mexico. Mexico has lower labor costs than China does. That's where we decided to move, and it's way better for us because it's safer, it's local, it's blah blah blah. But the Canadian trade part, we can kind of absorb and turn into a pissing contest, because in a $26 trillion economy, $140 billion worth of goods going back and forth is really fucking nothing comparatively. And he doesn't give a shit about the people that will be affected on an individual level. He's looking at percentages. So he can afford to get in this dick wagging contest with our neighbors to the north and drag it out in his mind. And that, I'm telling you, this is what the strategy is. I'm not saying it's good. I'm telling you, I want a picture of it.
I'm sure it is. It's just, we are paying for his revenge fuck, and it's not cool. Like, there was no reason for him to do this. No reason whatsoever. And before the election, we were telling people tariffs are bad and this would be bad, and he doesn't understand them and you don't understand them, and here we are and they still don't understand them. And it's so frustrating, because we don't have to live like this. Right? This should not be happening. And I will reiterate, our government is not supposed to take things away from us. They're not supposed to scare us. They're not supposed to threaten us. They're not supposed to hurt us. They're supposed to help us. They're supposed to help us function in our daily lives. That's why things were running just perfectly fine. Not perfect, but things were running under Joe Biden because Democrats know how to take care of shit. And Republicans were so busy obstructing that and put it on the big show that people paid attention to that. And I really, really wish people would just pay attention to what the facts actually are, and that Democrats deliver everything Republicans remove. And history shows this over and over and over. It's so infuriating because we don't lie. We don't have to. We don't have to alter reality to try to fool somebody into voting for Democrats. Like, it just bothers. Like, I don't expect everybody to be as informed or super brilliant, but I would love it if people would just start voting for themselves and in their own best interest instead of on the libs. Like, we have just gotten so far from what political norms and political discussions are. Like, we can't even. Like, everyone's just looking for the next rage thing, and that's a bigger topic that we can get into.
No, but I think
we have to remember what's actually important instead of just online pissing contests.
Right, but I would argue that that's what I try to do when I walk people back to the line of what's actually happening versus potential threats, which again is the weaponization of your imagination and creates worry and anxiety over stuff that hasn't happened yet, and your mental activity is better served focusing on the things that are actually happening as they occur that you have control over, because everything else is a waste of your life. And so in certain issues, what Trump and them know is that this whole Greenland, we're going to make Canada the 51st state, all that shit.
Not going to happen.
No,
so
but I know it isn't. But look how much it ate up in people's mental capacity. How much hard drive space and fucking RAM are people using in their regular lives to chase down this horse shit instead of going, that's bullshit, and being able to parse out what he's actually doing, right? And the actually doing part, again, is not helped in a story by The Guardian or that Wyden references in his thing, where seems to be possibility of allies of have had access or whatever, because the actual access and all the things, like accuse them of a crime and get the ball rolling, or stop soft pedaling it and just going, we knew to the point we knew this was going to happen, right? We knew he was going to do this. And so to some degree, our responsibility is to write it out, see what weaknesses are in the plan that they actually have, and try to mitigate the damage that can be done. That's our recourse. That's what we actually have, right? And again, talking the same way we did last time, expressing the same ideas in the same jargon that we did last time, and expecting it to have any kind of impact is a mistake. It just is. And I think it requires our due diligence to not allow them to weaponize our outrage again, like they did last time, and have us fucking chasing laser pointers, because the world will continue to rotate, and we will be there to pick up the pieces. And there are people on this earth who have been through far worse in what's happened to their government over time, and to make sure we don't get to the point, the worst possible situations, we can't allow them to just freak everybody out where, like in Nazi Germany, the most virulent came out and all dressed in the same outfits, and the people who were scared stayed home sewing. It's not how it works. There's got to be a good mix of things. And if you're paralyzed with fear or options, or you think it can be solved magically and somebody's just not doing it, like my big problem with the response of everybody, like, why aren't the Dems more outraged? Why aren't they doing this, this, and this? I know that, having met some of these folks, that there are single issue Congress people who seem laser focused, and maybe they're almost in an autistic nature, can't focus on anything else. But there's a big version of the leadership that knows that there's a bigger picture going on. Maybe too much. Maybe Al Gore syndrome, where they're looking at too many things at once.
You just put your hand straight through my chest.
I'm sorry.
That's the most action I've gotten in forever.
I pulled your heart
until I get my mammogram. That's the most
there you
action.
Go.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Excuse me. I should ask consent before I reach into your soul.
What soul? It's gone. It's been beaten out of me. No, I'm fine. It's fine.
Well, so the point I'm trying to make is that the concept, the idea, the assumption that Democrats could simply bang and this would bang is not true. on almost any of these issues. None of them. First of all, we don't have the House, we don't have the Senate, we don't have the presidency right now. So that's a reality. Acting as if we do is only damaging to Democrats. It is only damaging because the only thing you can come away with, if you believe they could be doing something, but they aren't because it doesn't look like what I think it should look like, the only thing you can come away with is they're stupid, so they shouldn't be anywhere near the levers of power, which is why people would rather give it over to a strong person than a stupid person, even if that stupid person seems to be nicer. Or they are evil, which is the TYT methodology. They could do this, but they're not doing it because they actually want people to suffer. Democrats are not operating like that. The people we liked 6 months ago are not different people now just because they're using a different tactic to try and function in this government as it exists. So I'm not putting that weight on them because we fucked up and a bunch of people didn't show up to vote like they should have, and there was a narrow margin of blah, blah, blah. It was stolen, whatever. We'll put that aside. I don't care. What I can, if that was true, also that's like saying an asteroid bounced off the Earth and, it's out of my control. What's inside my control is how we message and the fact that I am not at any point going to busy myself with worrying about how the loyalty of Democrats or any of these kind of stuff or how they should be operating when we have bigger fish to fry. The flare is coming from the other side of the field. And so I will leave it up to them to try and find their own strategy. They'll fail. Some of them might work. Some of them might weasel their way into the fucking White House and they seem like his best friend and they convince him to stop doing one thing that might save a lot of lives, save a lot of money, save a lot of people's livelihoods. Would it have been worth it? Yeah. It's the asteroid division idea that I have about humanity.
But he's not interested in saving lives. If he was, he would have told people the truth about COVID. So
I agree, but if he thinks it's in his best interest, he'll do it. And so if somebody sits in there and goes,
if it benefits him directly, he'll do it twice. So.
Right. So, okay. So two people walk into the Oval Office. This is kind of what I'm talking about. Two people walk into the Oval Office and barge in. And one of them is, they both want him to respond to COVID with the seriousness that it requires. One of them goes, "Fuck are you doing? People are dying, you dipshit. This is the reality. Tell everybody to get vaccinated right fucking now." And he'll go, "Get that person out of my office. Nobody tells me what to do." The other person goes, "Hey boss, look, I just know you don't want this on your fucking ledger at the end of this. It's pretty simple. We do a little bit of a lockdown for a time being. We'll be able to ease it up. But the primary thing is that we got to get people vaccinated. So you vaccinate all these people, man. You're going to be a legend. You're the guy."
And they didn't do either thing. So.
Well, no. It's exactly what Fauci and his team did. That's why we did have the primary lockdown.
Yeah, and then you still have the narrative that Fauci's the murderer and Trump is the hero that saved lives.
That doesn't matter. If Fauci ended up saving lives, even if these assholes hate him, doesn't matter. The point was they managed to do it. Mike Pence and Democrats and Fauci managed to get him to do a lockdown. Right? Remember that? Like that happened. That actually happened, and then it extended. I remember it didn't let up until Biden came into office and ended it.
It didn't disappear like magic.
Nope. And there was Operation Warp Speed. He can't even fucking talk about it. Why? Because Democrats talked him into it.
That's why.
Right. No, because Democrats talked him into it, and it actually worked. And so he can't. His own people would have hated it. So the idea that any of his people, any of them, we're going to come in and go, "Hey, we need a super fast vaccine science-y program to save lives." They weren't going to do it. Democrats were. But it wasn't going to be a Democrat that walked in and said, "Fuck you, dude. What's your fucking problem?" It was going to be the one that came in and said, I don't think you want these deaths on your ledger. And imagine if you're the guy that is leading the country that solves this problem, boss. I mean, come on.
Lenny, you could save millions of registered voters.
That's exactly right. If I'm wrong, I go to jail. Peacefully, quietly, I'll enjoy it. But if I'm right, Lenny, you will have just saved the lives of millions of registered voters.
When in doubt, go back to the Bill Murray well. It is always right.
That's so that's what I'm talking about. Now, that's why I'm giving everybody a bunch of room to move. will some of them turn out to be, I don't know, closet mansions or something? I don't give a fuck. Because again, even Manchin voted with us 85% of the time. And in a democracy, that's a rock solid thing. Like, so please, not my fucking. Every time we talked about Manchin in cinema, we weren't talking about the fact that the entire Republican Party voted in lockstep, and they are the problem. If they had been eliminated from the equation, the conservative concerns of Manchin and cinema would have paled in comparison to the extraordinary bullshit that these assholes were trying to push through, and we'd have worked out a bill that probably would have had more legs, because the vast majority of the American people would have supported it, and you could have built on it over time. Incremental progress, because everybody feels like you battened down the hatches and you kicked all the tires. And that is how it has to work in a democracy. And it drives me fucking crazy that we waste 1 fucking second worrying about the Democrats. Well, when the extraordinary nature of what is happening proves my point. Elon Musk just shut down USAID through Besant, either permanently or temporarily. And again, we knew this was coming. So I'm not going to spend a second being
this particular thing was coming. I was worried about all of the other things that were coming.
I did. Like, okay.
I mean, I figured that they would fuck with all of our norms at some point, but I thought that they would take a lot more time to do it and not try to do it all in the first 2 weeks.
Well, so. I think that more speaks to the fact that Project 2025 was built around the idea that Trump isn't going to last all 4 years.
Well,
right?
JD Vance can help them continue to implement all of their bullshittery. Because if you get rid of Trump, we're stuck with Vladimir Putin. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Right. Okay.
I don't.
So,
but you told me that the MAGA cult doesn't like JD Vance. So I don't know.
Don't. Right. Well, that's what I mean.
So what do you think, MAGA kids in the chat? Who if let's just say Trump is gone, do you really want Elon Musk running this country? Is that what you really voted for? Is that what you really want to see happen to your country? Like, what I would love to know what they do. What do they think they're getting from them? What are you personally gaining from this? Because you're not actually gaining anything. But I again, they can't ever admit that they were wrong about them. Blah blah blah. But ultimately, this is going to hit you in your bank account. So what is your goal here?
Again, I don't think. First of all, it hasn't happened yet, so they don't think it's gonna. So
that's
they
the operative word.
They don't understand. They think this is a plan, not a wick. And our argument is it's a wick, not a plan. It's been lit and it's going to blow up in their fucking face. But until it does, they're going to think it's working up until the explosion. I'm serious. Like, again,
when
and
eggs
if you know
are
that,
$9 or $10 already a dozen.
But here's the thing, right? Again, that's a frog boiling situation, which is gonna that's that. By the way, put a pin in that, and that will be Trump's gripe. What, mid-April? Mid-April, the red states are going to go, hey, whoa. Like, that's what we have to watch for. So we can't control what he's doing, but what we can do is look forward to where the exploitation points we know that exist and get ready for them, because there's going to be an opening where these people realize that he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about and that it wasn't a joke. He meant to do all these stupid fucking things. There's Andrea just put in the chat a breaking news that Marco Rubio says he's now the acting director of USAID. Now, remember what I said?
I'm sorry, what? Doesn't he already have a job being a bad Secretary of State?
No, okay.
And he have that job too? Because he allowed to fuck up both jobs?
No, USAID, what did I tell you at the beginning? They want to take USAID and put it under the purview of the State Department. Now, this is the part that I think it ventures into the conspiracy land that these folks believe. There's been a belief for a long time that USAID is a CIA front, and that 80% of the good it does is actually 20% people who are stationed with it are CIA agents, and we gather intel that way, and we enact things in other countries. And that has existed since a memo to Kissinger that was released under a Freedom of Information Act thing a long time ago, that during the Vietnam War, that the idea was that USAID was giving money to the CIA to carry out operations in Laos, when the exact opposite occurred. The CIA was giving money to USAID to give money to the locals because the CIA can't give money directly to the locals. It could go, okay, hearts and minds, here's some heart money. Go fix this for us. And so they gave money to the USAID. And so since that point, it's the CIA is a front, or the USAID is a front for the CIA. That's what they think. Okay, that's there, and there's a chunk of MAGA that believes that. There's also a chunk of like Russian and Chinese and Middle Eastern organizations that buy into that as well. And this would be a favor that Elon Musk is doing on their behalf. Now, the idea is that they want to they think USAID became woke over time. And what woke means is that too much funding was going to Africa. I'm telling you what this is. This
Fucking
is what
racism,
they think.
dude.
Right. That too much money went to Africa over other countries or at all. And because of and largely there's a reason why, because AIDS, malaria, apartheid. Those are the
famine.
Right.
Genocide.
Well, there's a lot of famine
like that, decimating the populations.
Sure, there's famine. There's famine in Asia. There's famine in South America and places. That's a regular thing. But Africa in particular, AIDS, malaria, and apartheid. So over time, if you look at the arc of USAID's focus post, like us moving out of Southeast Asia or something like that, that we started directing the money there because that was in the whack-a-mole world problems. That was where we fixed it, and we did it with all kinds of stuff. Well, there has been a population explosion in Africa during that time. And one of the things you'll notice from what these guys are always worried about is, we're being outbred, right? That's the Elon Musk storyline.
The replacement theory.
That's right. And one of the reasons that they believe this is because the birth rate in Africa is like whatever 4.1. It's like 4 babies for every woman, whereas in the rest of the world it's under 2, under replacement, right? So the great replacement theory that we heard about,
births and wants people to have 10 kids and wants to repopulate the earth with white kids. That's
right. Well, they beyond the fact that they think everybody's in a demographic collapse, and even Africa, the areas that we're talking about that balloon that number carry with them the weight of the more they industrialize, that number will go down. So it's just an arc in the same demographic collapse. It's just happening later, right? So the same thing, the idea is like China's demographic collapse was supposed to start in 2027. It actually happened 10 years ago. And so they've been on a downslope ever since. The Japanese, the Koreans, everybody's on a downslope. The Russians, horrible. The United States is one of the rarities because we don't care. America is not an ethnocentric state, no matter how much they want it to be. And so we keep making babies, not at full replacement level, but fairly close. We're in the ballpark, right? Way more than anybody else, and certainly more than ethnocentric countries. All ethnocentric countries that are resource-based eventually hit this bomb. And the Africans will be no different. But we either delayed it or we created the bomb in their theory. And again, I'm trying to relay as best I can where the thinking comes from, so you know what you're attacking versus just saying, rubber stamp evil or whatever. There's what kind of evil you're dealing with is different than just abstract. So they think that this bomb is happening later. One of the big pushes, and you'll see, is right-wing funding for eco-terrorist groups throughout Europe. The people throwing paint on paintings and all that kind of shit, locking down roads, making environmental stuff unpopular, essentially. Stop oil now, right? Because, and while Trump is going, we produce all the oil we need right here at home. We don't need it from anywhere else. Okay. That isolationism around fuel has a purpose related to the Great Replacement Theory. So what happens is, stop oil now. We're not drilling anymore. We make our own, and the rest of the world can say yes to that if they want to, but it's not transporting across anywhere. The Russians aren't sending it into Europe anymore. The Europeans are using everything that they make and come up with, and so nobody's sending it to China because there's no use for it. Nobody's sending it to Africa because nobody needs that much diesel fuel and can pay for it. South America, same issue. Like they have Venezuela, a couple other places where they can have their own, but it's shitty and it takes a long time to process. They have to send it to us to process and back. That's a Texas plan he talks about. So what happens if you stop oil exploration and try to shut down oil use tomorrow, like everybody, like these left-wing groups, allegedly, again, faux-aggressive groups in Europe that embarrass everybody and make everybody mad about climate change. But what if they got their way? 600 million Africans would die in about 13 months is what would happen. And the more you make that possible, even the dwindling of production and the move towards electric vehicles means that engines don't get serviced, oil doesn't get produced, what little is left over ends up being used here for other stuff. Look at, crypto plants like the one that Musk is setting up in Memphis. So they're looking at not only how do we make babies here, but how do we diminish the African population? And this is a multi-pronged attack. Right. Well, and again, the question with the African population overall, because it's not a country, it's a,
continent.
It's a continent, right? Is there are different states, different groups, different,
different countries with different governments and
different pathologies
but they're all
amongst
human
the people.
Beings.
They absolutely
is the
are.
bottom line. We are all human beings.
Agreed.
And
so the shutting down of USAID and all that kind of stuff is going to be seen. However, like under Rubio, probably my guess is 60% of what USAID was doing will continue. 40% of it will be scuttled. Live staff. Democrats are holding a press conference on Elon Musk, which is good. Okay, so right now as we speak,
they're having a press conference right now.
Yes, on it.
Good.
So let me. I don't have.
Maybe we can.
Yeah, do I have a? Let's see.
I would love to be able to react to that in real time because knowing what they plan to do matters.
Right. Hold on 1 second. I'll see if I can bring it up on here. We're going to have to go to YouTube and God Awful and whatever. It always goes to this page because it defaults to that's what I was watching one day. And,
but Letitia's I love Letitia
She's
James.
lovely.
I met her
Okay.
very briefly at the DNC.
Dem press conference, Elon, something like that.
I would assume.
The Democrats, let's see. Maybe I just have to go.
What if you just went to MSNBC? Wouldn't MSNBC be broadcasting it live?
Yeah, sort of.
Perhaps.
Live.
Try that.
Demo.
I don't know who's on the air right now. I haven't watched any TV news.
Here, hold on. I have the link. Andrea put it in the thing anyways. There we go.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. Duh. If it wakes up, here we go. All right. So.
All right.
This is. Okay, this is the response.
Global influence reduced at any.
Can you hear that? Okay.
Yes. Who is that?
Okay. Hold on. I'll back up here.
Just enunciate. Speak up.
Thank you all for being with us today. We very much appreciate your responding so quickly. We are here today. We're here today to shine a light on a crime that is unfolding before our eyes and support our tremendous U.S. civil servants at USAID.
Whoops, sorry.
President Trump directed his corrupt billionaire friend, Elon Musk, to ransack a critical agency of the U.S. government.
Yay!
Musk and his band of unelected acolytes at Doge have locked out USAID employees from their offices, improperly accessed highly classified information, purged the agency of its nonpartisan leadership, and thrown the agency into chaos through a concerted campaign of harassment and intimidation of its employees. This is on top of Trump's freeze of crucial foreign assistance programs. These actions severely harm our national security. They put thousands of children around the world at immediate risk of starvation, disease, and death, and sideline some of our finest civil servants who work tirelessly every day to make the world a better place. This is a case of the very worst among us attacking the very best of us. The work USAID does is vital to all Americans. Agency employees stationed here in the capital region and in posts around the world work hand in hand with our military to counter terrorism and to stabilize dangerous regions. They monitor and they fight diseases like Ebola and bird flu to prevent them from coming to the United States. And they work with U.S. companies to provide life-saving medical care and food assistance for children. Through these activities and others, USAID has been an invaluable pillar of U.S. foreign policy and projecting American power overseas. Its elimination only helps our adversaries, Russia and China, who want to see our global influence reduced at any cost. It's no coincidence then that Elon Musk, the world's wealthiest man with billions of dollars of investment in China, is doing China's bidding. Lastly, what Trump and Musk have done is not only wrong, it's illegal. USAID was established by an act of Congress, and it can only be disbanded by an act of Congress.
Yeah.
And therefore what?
Well, again, that's why they shut it down or whatever. And now he's saying he's the de facto head of it. Why Marco Rubio's saying this more than likely is because they know, like Rubio probably went, hey, you can't make it just vanish. And they went, we can't? And they went, no. And so they moved it under him until they put new leadership in. And then the fight will be over making it real and putting people in job, blah, blah, blah. Because they know they have to.
I want to know if they have a plan. I want to know what they intend to do.
Well, that's, again.
They're talking, but I want to hear about doing.
I think this is
all good. What we're hearing is great. This is truth going to the American people.
Stopping this will require action by the courts and for Republicans to show up and show courage and stand up for our country. Further, I'm urging my fellow Democrats to use every legislative tool we have at our disposal to slow down and stop this crime from succeeding. We're here to shine a light on this. You see the wonderful people that are here with us. Let me give you my good friend, Senator Chris Van Hollen.
Thank you, Don. Well, thank you. Thank you to Don Beyer and all of our colleagues gathered here and all of you who are here at this moment of a clear and present danger for the future of our country. Make no mistake, this effort by Elon Musk and so-called Doge to shut down the Agency for International Development is an absolute gift to our adversaries, to Russia, to China, to Iran, and
they got to hammer this home, and I think that's really key.
That's great.
Right?
That's
others,
excellent.
because AID is an essential instrument of U.S. foreign policy.
Which is why Marco Rubio probably made a phone call and said, put it under my purview and keep it going because you're going to fuck with us because China's Belt and Road. USAID is America's Belt and Road in a lot of ways. It's part of what we would do to reach out to these countries. And I like the idiots, well, yes.
And U.S. national security policy. So this has nothing to do with making the U.S. government more efficient and everything to do with aiding and abetting our adversaries around the world. If you doubt that for a moment, listen to what the former president and Putin crony Medvedev just put out on X. Quote, smart move by Elon Musk, referring to shutting down AID. Former Russian president and stooge of Vladimir Putin. This is also a huge gift to the PRC. And it's interesting that Vivek Ramaswamy, who was originally the Elon Musk co-pilot on Doge, is no longer here. But here's what he said just a year or so ago. Quote, Tesla is increasingly beholden to China. I have no reason to think that Elon won't jump like a circus monkey when Xi Jinping calls in the hour of need, unquote. He went on to refer to Musk as a Chinese puppet and then posted on X that the U.S. needs leaders who aren't in China's pocket. This is
and then he tried to work with him, so that
who had been originally, as you know, one of the co-chairs at this so-called.
Well, he also got broomed, again.
He totally did. Well, there's a reason Vivek rhymes with fake.
Doge.
Here we go. We'll continue for 1 second. Yeah.
Recently installed Secretary of State Marco Rubio had this to say a number of years ago with respect to Elon Musk and Tesla. quote, right after President Biden signed Senator Rubio's Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act into law, at Tesla opened a store in Xinjiang. He went on.
Moment of personal privilege. It's Xi Jinping, not Xi Jinping. Drives me fucking crazy. Don't give him any more like a regal name than he actually deserves. And it's Xinjiang.
Well, that's a white American trying to say things correctly.
Fuck me.
So, yeah,
To
I
say
mean,
nationless corporations are helping the Chinese Communist Party cover up genocide and slave labor in the region, unquote. That is Secretary Rubio. And as we speak,
I wonder what
he
changed
is
since he
allowing
said that.
Elon Musk to essentially take over AID. This is a corrupt abuse of power that is going on. As my colleague said, it's not only a gift to our adversaries, but trying to shut down the Agency for International Development by executive order is plain illegal. It is illegal.
What you gonna do? If it's illegal,
also,
what you gonna do?
Well, I mean, it's
It's a valid question.
The funding keeps going. The interesting thing is the checks will continue to be written. People will continue to be paid because they have their agency still exists, and he can't get rid of it technically. So all these people, for example, will be working for free for the next 3 months while this fuckery goes around. And again, I think that's why they shut it down, and he does it by executive order. They, just like the tariffs. And then a couple minutes later, Marco Rubio is announcing that actually I run it right now. We're going to run it under state.
It's great.
Elon Musk may get to be dictator of Tesla, but he doesn't, and he may try to play dictator here in Washington, D.C., but he doesn't get to shut down the Agency for International Development. Now, as we're speaking,
Fucking right.
at a federal court, at the district court right down the road, there's an ongoing hearing, I don't know if it's over yet, about the earlier effort of the Trump administration to stop federal grants around the country to communities and people in need. There's a stay on that, and then in Rhode Island, the Attorney General's got a TRO on that. So what you're seeing here with respect to AID is a continuing effort around those illegal actions. Now, over the weekend, I had multiple conversations with lawyers, and I want to commend all the lawyers who are working on upholding the rule of law here, including Democracy Forward, which is an organization that helped file the lawsuit pending right now in the D.C. District Court. I am confident that when they look into this,
is there a UFO from the 1950s landing in the the background? Am
I
the
think
only
someone
person
might
hearing
be
that?
playing some music or something.
I feel like
in the
you know
crowd.
those little like hoop tubes that people swing. It's what it sounds like.
they are looking into this. That they
Or I'm being hypnotized, which I'm fine with.
They will also file suits to hold the Trump administration and Elon Musk accountable. This is a clear
Excellent.
violation
That's what I
of
wanted
our
to
law.
hear.
Finally, let me
That's
just say
what I
a word
needed to
to
hear.
all the men and women and employees who work with AID. Thank you for your service to the United States of America.
Okay, this is why Joe Biden made all of those judicial appointments. Because he knew
we
we would have to rely on the courts because Trump was going to do some fuckery immediately. This is why you vote for Democrats. Because Joe Biden did everything he could to try to make the country as safe and protected as possible before he left office.
And Republicans, by and large, with rare exception to the stupid ones who don't even understand how shit works at all, are not apt to want to give over all of their power to the administrative state. They have no value if they don't control the purse strings. So there is a reason why Republicans wouldn't want shit like this to be possible. So even if they hate USAID, the idea that the president themselves can zero it out and make it go away is against their interests if they want to create or get rid of something in the future, right? Because if he can zero it out, You can also create it magically. That's why the Department of Government Efficiency isn't actually a department, because departments have to be created by an act of Congress. It's a fucking name, and it's why an
and they
agency
just wanted a Doge. They just wanted to do that because of their stupid coin. It's all of it is just this crypto broski oligarchy is such bullshit. You should, and I'm glad to hear Democrats saying there are going to be lawsuits. We are going after them. We are going to hold them accountable. Like, hit them where it matters to them, which is their bank accounts.
This is an excellent point too, is because there are two nerves you push on. One is Trump's ego, and he doesn't want to be he doesn't want to be VP Trump to Elon Musk, right? So I think while this is going on, and while they're drawing attention to Musk and what he shouldn't be doing, the other nerve you push on is the fact that Musk is making all the decisions. And so Democrats, when they're talking about this, and I think it's smart to go, he's not the dictator of of Tesla. He could be a dictator of Tesla, but not here. Democrats need to be hitting this point, is like, look, no one elected Elon Musk. He's an unelected bureaucrat that Donald Trump has appointed. An unelected appointee is now determining whether agencies exist or don't. Without going through Congress. That is language that even maggots can understand. And
he's an immigrant. He's an immigrant taking somebody's job. I don't know.
Yeah, that's that. They're not going to hear that at all. He's white, and he can't. Are they
worried about that?
No, they're not.
No,
not at all.
Doing jobs that Americans
they think he's magic.
Be doing. It's fine.
They don't think. Hold on. They don't think rich or magic people need a visa in the first fucking place.
Of course they don't.
We have all asked the authorities at AID, we've made multiple calls, to allow us just to enter the building in AID when this press conference is over, simply to talk to the civil servants at AID, those who may be in the building. As you know, they were told not to come in. But we would like to see firsthand what is happening to this essential agency that does such good work on the American people.
Bring the camera.
So, to our colleagues at AID and across the government, stay strong. We have your back. We will do everything in our power in the Senate and the House to stop this outrage. And in the meantime, since we don't have many Republican colleagues who want to help us, we are doing everything we can with our colleagues through the courts to make sure that we uphold the rule of law. Stop this.
Also, real quick, when he says something like this, and this would be my note for Democrats talking about this, is go, instead of just saying we don't have Republicans who will help us with this, we don't have our colleagues across the aisle, you need to lay it at their fidelity to Musk, not Trump. Mm-hmm. So on all the messaging of this, it should be, we've got a lot of our Republican colleagues who are more loyal to Elon Musk than they are even to Donald Trump. That language, I'm telling you.
Okay, well, here we are. Let's
it's
make
true.
Get that out
so
there.
Let's start with it's fucking true. That they're more loyal because they think Musk is telling J.D. Vance what to tell Trump, or both of them are whispering in both his ears, and he's a fucking dough-headed dipshit. So they know that's what's gonna like that. There are a bunch of them that actually believe that. I'm telling you. So it's true. They don't even have to lie. They don't have to make something up. But they can draw attention to something that at least these fuckers will hear and will make Trump nervous. And that's the only thing you can do. So the point they should make is it is beyond me, but apparently some of my colleagues across the aisle are more beholden to, under the thumb of, or responsive to Elon Musk than they are the President of the United States or the Constitution.
Right. And
leave it there.
Along with that, anybody who has the opportunity, journalists, anybody in the media who has the opportunity to talk to either Democrats or Republicans, the question is, why are Republicans more beholden to Elon Musk now?
That's right.
That's the question. Ask that question.
Then
Don't
to
even
Trump.
say
Right.
Trump's name. Don't say his name. Say,
that's right.
Why is your loyalty to Elon Musk? Why over the United States of America? You explain that to us. Mm-hmm. And hold Republicans immediately accountable on camera and keep asking. Don't let them get away with it. And the next press briefing, which I don't think is scheduled. I don't think they have one. I think tomorrow should be the next press briefing, probably. That's the only question they should be asking Caroline. Why is Elon Musk running this administration? Why is Elon Musk the person everyone's going to? Why? Why are Republicans more beholden? Why are you more? Why does the Heritage Foundation want Elon Musk running the country?
Well,
just ask that. Put it all there and away from Trump, and the bromance will continue to be on the skids. The brolyarchy can't. The center won't hold if Donald Trump is like, you're getting more attention than me.
Stark out in the chat says he's not even an American-born citizen. For fuck's sake, I agree with you.
Correct.
Let me offer a name that might answer why this isn't that surprising. Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger had
everyone remember. He even had an accent.
That's right. He was he was the outside, like he was the fucking war whisperer for 2 goddamn decades. And there was and he knew so much stuff that people were even deferential to him on some level. Well after, you know, even after the 2 decades where he was sort of relevant to policy. So the idea that we have some foreign-born fuckwad telling the president what to do and it's keeping us in wars or in a violent situation or whether or not, you know, funding goes someplace, that already existed, right? We've been through this before, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right, to deal with it.
I love that because when it comes to Trump, everyone's comparing him to Nixon. So I guess it does make sense to compare Musk to Kissinger because it's letting somebody from outside of the United States have influence on the United States government.
That does not have loyalty. Right. Because everything's a reboot with these motherfuckers.
Ultimately, Musk is loyal to Musk. He's
right.
beholden to his own. He wants to get his rockets to Mars and he wants his cars all over the road and he wants his satellites controlling everything. And he wants... You know, he wants to control the world, and I think if he was capable, he would knock Putin off. He would do that because he's so obsessed with power and is the just giant fucking dipshit. And it's so, and I feel like every single one of them is playing at their jobs because when they put when they say Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, it's like that's not real. He's not a real person. He came from road rules. He turned his wife into a subjugated Grand Canyon baby factory, although she's fine with that. But like the people who are in charge are the least serious people possible. And Musk is the least serious of all the least serious people.
See,
the dipshittery is so frustrating. So keep pinning it to him for sure.
Yes. The language of, you know, of in seriousness, I think Steve Bannon is in serious. I think he actually has a secondary motive, mostly about his own attention and power and all that kind of shit. And that will be at play at some point
Mike Flynn.
because yes, Mike Flynn's a fucking lunatic. But Elon Musk is not in serious about these things. He's just wrong and he's dumb and he also doesn't care about the ramifications, and that doesn't mean he doesn't take them seriously.
Is a bad combination.
Is that he doesn't give a shit about the ramifications of them because he is not tailoring his existence to the average person. Right? That even Tesla as a vehicle isn't aimed at the regular like auto user, and the robots are the bespoke fancy ones that rich people will have in their houses. Like he's not looking to make the average person's life better. He's looking to hyperbreed a certain group of people on the planet and get rid of everybody else. And we've been through this fucking system before, and it never stands up under its own weight, especially when like lately. Musk, like Trump, has been talking about succession of his company. If something were to happen to him, who would be in charge of it? This has been a big conversation because he's paranoid and smokes a lot of weed and can't handle it. And he thinks he's going to be assassinated. Right. But let's listen to a little bit more of this, and then I want to see where they go, because I want to see, because they've obviously got a couple other
shutdown of AID and stop the other illegal actions around the government. Let me now bring up a really good colleague of mine, known him for years. He now chairs he's now the ranking member of the Oversight Committee in the House of Representatives. He knows AID and foreign policy as well as anybody, better than most. Jerry Connolly. All right.
Jerry Connolly, who is suffering from cancer and is ancient, but bless him.
Good afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
We're here today not only to fight for federal employees who dedicate themselves every day to a humanitarian task. We are here to save lives, because that is what AID does.
And the Republicans are not there to save lives.
Again, this is how we talk about it.
Right, we do.
The issue is that maggots are hearing him speak, and they're not going, yeah, kill him. They're going, what about my life? That's the first thing they do. And the second is
Right.
like, why are we saving these other people's lives? They should save their own fucking lives. I got enough problems, right? So they're not hearing this at all in that kind of language. I appreciate what he's saying, but it's aimed at us.
Right.
It's aimed at people who
Right.
give a shit. It's not aimed at anybody. It's not language that people who don't give a shit will understand and suddenly start giving a shit. That's always my issue with the messaging.
So what should the language
AID is
be
bad.
around this to make them give a shit? What do
The-
you think the language should be to get the MAGA kids in the chat and their friends to be like, oh, this is actually bad. Oh,
Right.
this is bad for us. This
Well,
is
I
bad
think
for me personally.
there's a couple of things.
What's the
One is-
messaging then?
USAID not only does work in line with the Judeo-Christian values of the United States that a lot of people adhere to, not everybody, but those who do really care about. And one of the things that we know about hunger, poverty, disease is that they don't always just stay overseas. And so a long time ago, we realized that one of the solutions we had that beyond having to go fight a war was to deal with these things and help gather with our partners all around the world to do our part to make sure that those problems don't cross borders and that they stay where they are or they're solved where they are. And this especially comes to from everything from wheat blight to malaria to Ebola to AIDS to all these things. We use USAID to stiff arm a lot of the world's problems. And if we take it away, those things start to come our way. And China and Russia would love that. That's
And
closer. That's how they
we're
would
not
hear it
alone
and
in the
understand.
world, you guys. So,
Right.
supposed to be
Right.
a global citizen.
In the fight against HIV,
They also don't hear global citizen either. They hear
No, of
globalist and
course they
Jew
don't.
and blah,
But
blah,
if you
blah.
want to know how
In the
it
fight to-
impacts you, watch what happens in these other countries, and then that's what would
Right.
happen here
I agree.
if the Democrats
protect
did
the Uyghur
nothing to
population in
stop
China.
them.
Mm-hmm.
In the fight to protect refugees, in the fight to make sure that there's food security everywhere, AID is there. It is the lead development agency in the world. And no one elected Elon Musk to dismantle it.
Thank you.
We are going to fight in every way we can. In the courts, in public opinion, with the bully pulpit, in the halls of Congress, and here at AID itself. We are not going to let
I heard the
this
word fight.
injustice happen.
That's good.
Congress created this agency with the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961. And if you want to change it, you got to change that law. It is a matter of statute. It's a matter for Congress to deal with, not an unelected billionaire.
Which is exactly why Marco Rubio announced he's now running it and it exists. And that all those people will be let back in tomorrow and it'll be a big but this lays
We're
cover,
going
by
to
the
have
way.
to do real shit with it now. Like, it's going
Right.
to have to, go through the proper channels now. And this is why we speak up. This is why you call your reps. This is why you get angry.
Also,
this is why you
call the
are
White House.
vocal.
Call the White House. Because, again, Democrats are doing what they need. And they don't need to be poked to deal with this because they're all there's so many issues.
I'm calling
They're now in
Republicans,
working
too.
fucking group. But no,
You gotta
I'm
call
saying
Republicans.
yes, call Republicans and bitch, and then call the White House and bitch. There is no reason to clog up a Democrat's phone lines when you know everybody else is saying the exact same thing. Write an email, write something like that, add it to the pile, make sure they have some evidence when they go in there. They go, these are the emails I printed out from my constituents. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
That's ammo they can use. But calling them doesn't help. Calling Republicans annoys the fuck out of them, and calling the White House
they don't
also
like it.
irritating.
They really don't.
Oligarch
Before
thing.
you and I spoke today, I called and left a voicemail for John Thune,
Mm-hmm.
and I left a voicemail for Speaker Johnson.
Mhm.
And that any American citizen is allowed to call any member of Congress, even if they're not your specific member of Congress.
Right.
And you are allowed to voice your opinion as an American citizen. And if you do it forcefully but respectfully, you might get their attention. I don't know. But what I do know is that it is somebody's job to sit there and log every single voicemail and write down every single thing and pass it along to a comms director or someone in the comms director's office so that eventually it gets to that member of Congress, your senator, your representative. So even if you think what you're doing isn't doing anything, yes, it is. And I will tell you personally, from the time that I spent calling Marjorie Taylor Greene's office every day and
Mm-hmm.
annoying the person who answers her phone. They will get to know you. They will not like you. They will send your messages to voicemail. That doesn't mean you stop doing it. It means you increase your efforts and you let them know I'm not going away and I'm watching you and I'm holding you accountable because this is your country. And I'll tell you something. And this is what I said to John Thune on the voicemail this morning. I said, your constituents did not elect you to bolster Elon Musk. Your constituents did not vote for Elon Musk. They did not vote for their protections to be taken away from them. This affects Republicans equally, and you need to act as an American and as a human. This is not party affiliated now. This is a human issue. This is a globally human issue, and here at home, it's going to impact real Americans every single day. That's the messaging to Republicans. Hit them where they live, literally.
Yep.
And tell them their own constituents are at risk. And
Well, again, Elon Musk is an unelected bureaucrat. Elon Musk is an unelected bureaucrat. He's walking around with a clipboard as an efficiency expert. Remember in the 80s, this concept of the efficiency expert when they showed up in corporate America and they were walking along making sure everybody did something in triplicate.
And everyone was scared. They were there with the calculator. And
they were just gross or whatever. And they became hated. Even if they had value to the company, even if they could cut money, it became a pariah. It became a nerd character. It became in the negative sense, not of course in the Nerd Halen positive sense. But it became
nothing's cooler than Nerd Halen.
Yeah, I agree. And so I think that has to be the goal as well. It's like Elon Musk and his fucking clipboard walking around going, I don't think you're doing your job right, when he has no fucking idea how any of this shit works. And the speed by which they're doing it shows that they don't care how well it's done. They've already made up their mind. And that's what happened with USAID. And that's why, and same thing with the tariffs. They're going to roll those back because they made up their mind, they ready, fire, aim is what's been happening.
Elon Musk.
It's not good. It's not how you're supposed to run a government. It just isn't.
Now,
so this is encouraging.
Hold on. I want to see who speaks after Connolly.
And Elon, if you want to run AID, get nominated by Trump and go to the Senate, and good luck in getting confirmed.
Ha-ha! I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's calling them out directly and naming it and shaming it directly.
Yeah. Hold on. I'll jump ahead to the next speaker, too, because I see what the top of what they're saying is really the primary.
Who is that?
Hold on.
Senator Schatz of Hawaii.
Oh, Brian Schatz. He's excellent. He's great. We love him. He's great. And he tweeted yesterday. He said an EO does not change certain things. Like you can't do certain things. It doesn't change laws.
Yeah.
Keep watching. So
all executive orders at the bottom of them literally have this boilerplate text that says this is not seen as to violate any law, does not create a law, does not nullify a law. They all say that for a reason.
Right, and he tweeted that yesterday, and he said, keep watching or something. So he knew that they were going to be calling this press conference today.
Yeah.
See, this is why we can take a collective exhale.
Again, I don't know if he knew this. I think he's just seeing the writing on the wall that this is how Trump is going to try and handle everything because he's written all these.
Bill.
Right, but when he tweeted that yesterday, they were talking already yesterday about planning something.
Wave away an agency that you don't like or that you disagree with by executive order or by literally storming into the building and taking over the servers. That is not how the American system of government works. That's number one. Number two is, it is true that there will be suffering all over the world. There already is suffering all over the world as a result of this. But it's not just that. It's that instability from starvation and disease will visit us in the...
What I say. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Right. There we go.
I told you, he's so great.
There is a reason that USAID is an arm of American foreign policy, and it is because we understand that a stable world means a stable America. And in the last 10 days, Donald Trump has done more to destabilize things across the planet than perhaps any other president in recent memory. And one final point, and I know my colleagues from especially Virginia and Maryland feel very strongly about this. They are counting on some sense of inevitability. This is a bluff. It is a harmful, dangerous, killer bluff. but they don't have
love
the
him.
law on their side. And so
I love
every
this.
civil servant, every contractor, every individual who is scared, stand in solidarity with each other, because if we are going to push back on this kind of autocratic behavior,
Oops, I don't know why I jumped ahead. That wasn't me.
Okay.
But great point. What I'd say.
Elon Musk.
Jimmy Raskin now.
Here you go.
I love Jimmy Raskin.
Elon Musk, you didn't create USAID. The United States Congress did for the American people. And just
Here
like
they
Elon
are.
Musk did not create USAID, he doesn't have the power to destroy it. And who's going to stop him? We are. We're going to stop him.
Thank you. That's what we all need to hear. We need to hear this. Every
Elon
person
Musk,
needs to hear this.
you may have illegally seized power over the financial payment systems of the United States Department of Treasury, but you don't control the money of the American people. The United States Congress does that. Under Article 1 of the Constitution.
Get him.
And just like the president who is elected to something cannot impound the money of the people, we don't have a fourth branch of government called Elon Musk. And that's going to become real clear.
Yeah, okay. So this is going to be like, this is the nerve they got to hit, because if Trump is embarrassed by Musk and Musk looks like he's overreached and the like, and other billionaires feel like they can get leverage like Bezos and others against him, that's the way the tide turns, and they just got to wait for that toehold, blood in the water, and overreach is one of the biggest ones.
This illegal, unconstitutional interference with congressional power is threatening lives all over the world. I'm hearing from my constituents who work for USAID and USAID contractors in Maryland, in Washington, all over the world, and they're telling us that this is a killer in terms of their cutoff of HIV and AIDS preemption. It's a killer in terms of anti-malarial education. It's a killer in terms of all of the efforts to shut down global viruses. Now, I don't know what Elon Musk's intentions are. I don't know what Elon Musk's motivations are. I don't know what his purposes are, but they've got nothing to do with what has been lawfully adopted by the people of the United States of America through the Congress of the United States. We're going to defend USAID all the way.
All right. That is the message.
Republicans
Don't
do
tell
not
me
have
the Democrats
enough.
aren't doing nothing.
That's right. The Republicans do not have the votes to get rid of it in the House and Senate. Trump could minimize it as, and basically nullify it through weakness. But the money that's allocated through it already exists and will be played out and all that kind of stuff. And it has to meet certain standards in its existence. That's in the law. I'll look it up later on and read out parts of it as far as the law that created it, what its purpose is, which is fairly broad, but actually has some baseline stuff that it has to contribute with. And to eliminate that contribution takes an act of Congress. And by the way, Democrats aren't the only ones that want this. Like Republicans might even, like I said, might even hate the program, but don't like the idea that Elon Musk can eliminate the work of Congress by fiat. It's fucking stupid. And that is one of the areas where they could even talk to the fucking Freedom Caucus. And if they use the right words, those people will understand this. You want to get rid of USAID? Write a bill, put it on the floor, vote on it, and it will either happen or it won't. But if you want to just outsource all your responsibility and capability over to Elon Musk, then just say so. I don't give a shit.
And then,
it's not possible.
Then tell us why.
But admit it. Yes.
Tell us why, as a Republican member of Congress, you've decided that being beholden to Elon Musk is benefiting the American people. Please tell me.
We know.
Show your work.
Why? Right?
With your twist your mustache while you're supporting Elon Musk too.
And I want to say finally this. I've heard some murmurings in support of this outrageous, scandalous, illegal maneuver that they just need some time to do some studies for evaluations. Well, I've heard from multiple constituents
working in USAID that they have removed all evaluations from the USAID website, and they have shut down immediately, as of right now, all of the evaluations taking place of USAID efforts all over the world. This has nothing to do with evaluation. This is about termination and obliteration of the major foreign aid programs of the United States of America, all of which together total less than $40 billion. We have a Pentagon budget of $900 billion. The Pentagon budget is where the defense contractor Elon Musk, who became the richest man in the world off of our money, he collects his payments from, and now he's trying to shut down USAID. We're not going to allow this to happen. It will not stand.
He should lose all of his government contracts immediately. Immediately. We don't need your fucking satellites, and we don't need your exploding rockets and your death cars. We don't need them. We don't need you.
Yeah. So I completely agree, and I think this is the area where apparently Trump, in what I heard, was that Musk said, we got to shut down USAID, and Trump kept saying to him, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure?" And he kept hearing yes.
That's not a question he should have to ask anybody.
I agree. But
he's the one that's supposed to be making the decision.
I agree. My point is that means Trump isn't. Trump doesn't know either way, and if it blows back or it's embarrassing or his own side gives him any shit, he's going to fold like a fucking house of cards because
which he already has. He's folding.
Right.
It's a current active situation as he's folding. He's as folded. He'll continue to fold.
Sure.
Until he's this big.
Anyway, I got to let you go. We went long or whatever, but that's kind of a wonderful thing.
Well, I'm glad that Christopher Titus never showed up because I was told he was coming in. Hey,
I was
Titus.
too. But
I always want to say his name like
he's
that.
A busy guy.
Titus. I don't know why, but when you see Titus, tell him Tara said he's doing terrific. Anyway, this is my book, The Sound of Settling. We have sold over 1,000 copies now. TaraDublinRocks.com. Reviews are amazing. Please purchase a copy if you have not. Please sign up for my Substack, Hal's Substack, the Political Voices Network Substack. Support each other. Today, your assignment is to spread the news that Democrats are actually fighting. So if you see anybody saying Democrats aren't doing anything, you can send them the link to that press conference and say, actually, yes, we fucking are. So, and remember, it's Black History Month. Congratulations to Beyonce for setting a record. She made history yesterday. Support Black women. This country was built on their backs. Everything that you love about America is thanks to Black people. Remember that even if Sean Duffy doesn't want you to. Okay?
Well, I would argue that everything about America that you love is the cumulative work of all the people that are here, including them, which is where the us versus them part of it has no bearing.
I'll just say this. Remember to appreciate Black culture instead of appropriating Black culture. How about that? How about we do that? And that's how you get invited to the cookout. Okay? No raisins, though. Anyway, you never bring raisins to the cookout. It's the first thing that you learn. Anyway. Be good to each other. Raisins ruin everything. Hal, come on.
I agree.
Just like Republicans.
Take a perfectly good grape and fuck it up. Take all the water out of it. That's what made it great. Makes no sense.
Why would you put it in a cookie? Why would you ruin a cookie by putting a raisin? What's wrong with you people?
I agree. I agree.
Anyway, we can get into weird food things next time.
Fruit leather, I hate it, but it sounds naughty, and so I like it. All right. There you go.
If you can't wear it, there's no point. Okay. Be good to each other. Do something good for your country. Hold Republicans accountable. And when people start talking shit about Democrats, now you say, actually, we're fucking fighting. Awesome.
Yep.
See you guys next week. Take care of yourselves.
Sign
up for all the things.
Yes, there she goes. Ladies and gentlemen, Tara Dublin Rocks, sticking around with us a little bit longer show, but I think that's okay. I think that's all right. Yeah? Okay with you guys? All right, now I got to run and continue building out the show because I don't have a chat window, which is wrong. I feel that's terrible. It's not right. Is it? I don't know. I don't think that's right. Yeah? I feel like we should have a. All right. Anyways, okay. Love you guys. See you later. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. And am I just too much of a Libra for these days? Is that what it is? Am I just too balanced for everything in an imbalanced world? Well, tough. Ladies and gentlemen, Welcome to the fulcrum. That's my gig now. That's now what I am. I'm now officially the world's fulcrum. Oh, and I have to play music. Sorry. Play from the top, you silly. There we go. Love you guys.
I'm telling you straight. It's my way or the highway. So anybody wants to walk, do it now.
All right. I will absolutely be having a show this afternoon.